Saturn in Sagittarius is blowing up issues right and left. The shocking allegations around sexuality, bringing justice to that kind of abuse. The justice that's related to politics. Both allegations against Trump and his campaign, also Hillary Clinton and the corruption in the DNC. So check this out. So I'm talking today about the recent sex allegations, and not just allegations, but sex crimes and abuses that have been really rocking the entertainment industry, the straight or gay. Astrologically, we definitely see this as being related, especially this sense of justice and inevitability now. There's this feeling of inevitability now that really something has changed, especially because we see these titans of industry and people, these people losing their jobs, losing their stature. As all these women accuse Weinstein, and then now we have Corey Feldman, who is an actor who was talking about, or he's supposedly going to come out and talk more. I don't know. I don't think he has said much specifically, but especially recently with Kevin Spacey, it's also been very shocking. And so when we look at the charts of Corey Feldman and Kevin Spacey, we don't have a good birth time for Kevin Spacey. He was born July 26, 1959. And as you see, this is close to a second Saturn return, which means around 2019 he'll have pretty much the exact second Saturn return, but it's just setting up for that now. It's about a year away from the exact time when Saturn and Jupiter return to their natal positions. The 60th birthday is a time of celebration in Indian culture, because it's when Saturn and Jupiter both come back to their natal positions, and it's really a time of reckoning. In many ways, actually, it marked the halfway point in our life. We're supposed to live 120 years. That's why the Vimshotri Dasha is 120 years long. And the midway point in that is the Saturn-Jupiter return. These cycles are very important, and you don't hear Vedic astrologers talk about this as much. I'm going to be talking about it more, actually. But when planets return to their synodic positions, and when they reset and return, these are important sort of benchmarks. So every 60 years, Saturn and Jupiter return. So as you see in Kevin Spacey's chart, he has Saturn in Scorpio at about 8 degrees, and he has Jupiter at about 28 degrees of Libra. So you're seeing this accounting and this kind of reckoning happening now. And again, we don't know his birth time, so we're not sure. I'm not sure if his moon was actually in Pisces, in Revati, or if it's in Aries. He does have, however, a prominent Mars-Venus conjunction in Leo, which makes for a lot of sexuality. Mars-Venus conjunction in general shows a lot of libido. And I just talked about this in a recent video, because, you know, Mars is the energy of passion and aggression toward what we want. And Venus is the energy of beauty and joy and happiness. And literally, Venus is what makes the senses enjoyable, what brings us into contact with the world of beauty, and that includes sensual pleasure, sensual desire, and also elevating it. So you always want to understand the elevation, the evolutionary principle, and how that elevates the energy. So the physical part of Venus is sensual pleasure, which is just for me. I can enjoy sensual pleasure. And then the emotional level of Venus is sharing that with someone else, which is usually what happens in a normal relationship, not one where there's abuse. We want to share that with another person. And again, it's not just for my pleasure. and not so I can dominate you and take something from you, which is what abuse is, sexual abuse. And then the highest nature of Venus, though, is even beyond any kind of sensual experience. It's finding beauty and joy in higher things, all things. That can often mean things like nature or art. But again, that's also somewhat rajasic. It's related to the world and people. But the really highest quality of Venus is devotion to God and the source of beauty and pleasure and happiness, which is not conditioned on another person or our own happiness and pleasure. So when Venus comes into contact with Mars, when they're close in the natal chart, his was about 10 degrees away, then you see this nature of conquest, which is Mars interacting with Venus, so it can show a lot of physical desire. Certainly doesn't mean people with Mars-Venus are sexual predators. That's not at all what I meant. All I'm saying, though, is that you see this as part of his nature, is to have high libido and be very sexual, and also somewhat domineering, because they are in Leo, and that can be shown. I'm not going to get too much into it in this video, but I have looked at when you have Venus, especially, you know, Mars in Leo is going to show a lot of sexual, you know, confidence, you know, a lot of masculine sexual confidence. Whether it's a man or a woman, it'll be like a sort of, you know, assertion. Venus in Leo also shows where there's sort of dominance going on. I have looked at this before. I lived in San Francisco for quite a while, for 20 years, and especially when I used to do a lot of readings in person and a lot of locals, and I would get into, people would get into sexuality. There's definitely some back and forth with power issues, and that doesn't mean it's negative. Some people, their sexuality revolves around, you know, dominance, submission themes, and Leo is an important sign in that, and Venus is, of course, the planet of sexuality. So I'm saying this because Kevin Spacey, what this abuse is about dominance. It's about, and it's somewhat sadistic, because he's the boss. You can't do anything about it. It's disgusting. It's just so disgusting. When you read some of the accounts of what happened, like with Kevin Spacey, which we're hearing now, you know, they've cut ties with him, Netflix and the production company, because what he would do is, you know, he would just always go up and just assert himself on others. You know, unwanted touching all the time. There was one account of one of the assistants would drive him onto the set, and while they were driving onto the set, Kevin Spacey would basically assault him, basically molest him, start feeling up his, you know, his private parts, and just, it's total Leo dominance. Like, I'm the king, I'm the powerful one, I'll do whatever I want. And what are you going to do? I'm the king, I'm the boss. So that's just the way it is. So the point is that behavior can be seen. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when someone is like the absolute power and they don't have a good handle on it, behind the scenes they could be acting like this. So he also has Sun Mercury in Cancer, and you know, Jupiter in Libra. But what really happened also, which was not cool, was when those allegations came out. The first ones weren't even about the allegations on the set of whatever that show is. I don't watch TV. I don't remember what the show is. Was the first person who came out, I don't remember his name, said that when he was 14 years old, 14, Kevin Spacey molested him. Picked him up, laid him in the bed, got on top of him. Kevin Spacey was in his late 20s. I mean, that's just insane that he would do that. And what Kevin Spacey said, his response to that, was it was totally unacceptable, just in the sense that he made it about him mainly and his sexuality. First he apologized. He said, if I did that, then I totally apologize for doing something in some drunken state. I must have been drunk. I forgot. I'm so sorry if I did that. But now I'm going to tell you that I've had relationships with both men and women, and I choose to live as a gay man. So he comes out, and the story, I think he tried to make the story less about him molesting an underage boy, and instead wanted to make the story about him being gay. But it didn't work. But I think it was a way to really try to hijack the story. These celebrities are not stupid. They're savvy about these things. If Kevin Spacey would have come out and said he was gay on any other day, that would be big news. Apparently to some, I've never thought much about it, but apparently in the Hollywood circles, everyone's kind of known he's gay. Most of us don't think about that or care about it. And if he'd have come out and said he was gay, nobody would have really cared that much. Okay, he's gay, big deal. In this day and age. But what he tried to do is piggyback, here I am coming out on the back of this news story where he was accused of molesting a young boy. As soon as I saw that, it turned my stomach. Because he was trying to hijack the story and make it about him being gay rather than the other thing. Oh, sorry, if I did it, it's terrible and inexcusable and a drunken episode that I need to apologize for, whatever. So his is the latest, and it's shocking. Watching this man, now this man's career is like ruined. And of course, Corey Feldman, who, again, I apologize, I didn't know who Corey Feldman was. I had to go look up, oh, he was in the Goonies and all these movies, mainly in the 80s. He was mainly a child star, from what I can glean. I think he's done some things, but he's not like that renowned as an entertainer or actor anymore. But apparently he's saying that he's going to come out and talk about all this abuse and start naming names. He hasn't yet. So aside from anything he's done, it's still relevant to look at his chart and see what is prompting this moment in his life. He's actually, it's pretty obvious, he's got a Cancer Ascendant, he's got Ketu in his first house, and also Mercury. They're all very close and bunched up in Aslesha Nakshatra, and his, Rahu just went in to Cancer, so he's getting this transit of Rahu through his first house right now, and it's, of course, it's really sort of focusing on his identity. When Rahu goes through our first house, it shows the new level of identity unfolding and coming forth. I'm just looking at the chart a little bit. And so he's got Rahu now going right through that section of his chart. We have a good birth time for him. He's got Mercury Ascendant and Ketu all in between 21 and 25 of Cancer, which is right where Rahu is right now. And of course, the opposite is Ketu going over his natal Rahu, and he also has Mars there in Capricorn at 28 degrees. So he's totally getting this nodal transit in his first and seventh house axis. Of course, that's the relationship axis, our relationship with others. And of course, as you would expect, he's in Rahu Ketu Dasha. It just started October 29th. So just like last week or so, right when Saturn went into Sagittarius, he started Rahu Ketu Dasha, and then he comes out in much greater means talking about this abuse that he apparently suffered when he was young. So we see it's not only all of the women coming forth with how they were abused and how it was expected that they would be harassed and belittled and coerced into being dominated sexually in order to work. We also see that it's gay men being predatory. And so this is pretty remarkable. And it feels like a change, like a watershed event, like we're not going to go back now. Which, again, this feels like just the next level. With Saturn going into Sagittarius, again, it's bringing these things, bringing a sense of justice to these issues, rather than just hanging out in the insecurity and the paranoia and the dominance and domineering power plays of Scorpio. These things are coming out into the light now, and we're seeing these revelations, as I said in the video that I did on Saturn in Scorpio. I'm sorry, Saturn in Sagittarius. So we also see a lot of this on the politics, big revelations about Hillary Clinton's campaign. There was also the thing about that dossier, but a lot of right and left in politics last week. In particular, that book by Donna Brazil that talked about how Hillary Clinton basically was in the DNC was in her, was in her pocket. Basically, the whole primary process was rigged, or if not rigged, the DNC was behind her. It's not like they rigged, polling places or whatever, or they, didn't count votes, but they were not equal for both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, which everyone knew. And she carried this taint all the way through the general election, and it's a big reason why voter turnout was so low and enthusiasm for her was so low, because she was obviously establishment, and the DNC, the establishment, supported her, didn't listen to the people, and so the people didn't show up and support her with nearly the enthusiasm that they had before with Obama. And then, of course, on the other side of the political spectrum, we have indictments against the Trump campaign, and they're not just accusations. We have confessions, we have guilt, we have guilty people cooperating with Mueller investigation into what happened in the election last year. Again, this is all bringing justice from the Scorpio time into the Sagittarius time. So understand this shift. It's the justice, because it's Sagittarius. Saturn, which is about focus, dedication, commitment, is now we're committed to justice, getting the truth. What went on? We want to find the truth. What went on? Well, in the entertainment industry, men and women have been molested for decades. In the last campaign, which was Saturn going through Scorpio, Mars was there a lot of the time. During that time, there was both sides. There was one side in obvious contact with the Russian government, wanting to meet with the son of the candidate in Trump Tower, and the campaign manager Manafort has ties to Russian autocrats in Ukraine. Obvious connections that's now coming out under the pressure of indictment and guilty pleas. And on the other side, the whole Democratic campaign was weighted against Bernie Sanders. So the thing we suspected about Hillary Clinton was brought out to be true. The thing about the dossier is also coming out, at least these stories are in the news. That's certainly much more politically motivated and ambiguous, because the dossier was started by a Republican and then picked up by Hillary Clinton's campaign Democrat. That's really a wash. That's just politics. What's not politics is Donna Brazile, who was the head of the DNC, coming out and saying, yes, the DNC was totally in Hillary Clinton's back pocket the whole time. So you're seeing their issues polarized in their favor, as well as these revelations are coming out, and both sides are looking for the higher purpose. And hopefully we have turned there's been a turning point in the sexual allegation and the disgusting culture of sexual abuse in this country. I can't remember the last time things were this obvious. And again, Saturn just moving into Sagittarius after being back and forth in Scorpio for such a while, for such a long time, and Rahu and Ketu moving out of their Leo axis, which again, Rahu out of the Leo Aquarius axis, Rahu and Leo, very much about that kind of dominance structure. The other thing is Jupiter is in Libra as well, which brings that focus on relationships. Go back and listen to the Jupiter in Libra video that I did a couple months ago, and you'll hear me talk about social justice, social themes, bringing equality and learning in relationships and all that. So we're seeing all these things sort of conspire and commingle right now.